Hi everyone. Today we are going to be working on TE 1.2 communication. Um, so we're going to focus on today the X, Y, and Z axis of making a keychain. So we're communicating with a printer, and we're also just creating a prototype, which is a form of communication. So we're making a keychain, and you can see some examples up on the board. So task number 1, in class students will view the presentation posted below. So the presentation is posted down here. Feel free to look through this today. We will cover this when I am back at school next week. Number 2, next students will view the following presentation to learn about 3D printing and communication. And that's this presentation right here. And then you'll access TinkerCAD.com to create the keychain, and you're going to upload an STL file when finished. So you're going to submit just an STL file. Alright, so you're going to view this presentation right here. You can click on that. And then you're also going to be clicking on TinkerCAD.com. When I go to TinkerCAD.com, my initial TinkerCAD.com is going to look like a giant screen of lots of objects that I've created over the last couple of years. So I'm going to log out real fast because we all need to make an account. And to make this account, you are going to go to sign in. And you are to choose or sign in using social providers. And one of those social providers is Google. And we can select Google. And you're going to select your PC school's email address. And click Allow. And I am going to change this here to, I'm going to link this account. And this should link my two accounts together. And here we go. So now my accounts are linked. So remember, you're going to sign in and then going to social provider. So I'll log out again. You go to sign in, and then using a social provider, and you're using Google. And that. And it should take me right into TinkerCAD this time. Alright, now, once you guys are into TinkerCAD, I'm going to open this in a new tab here. This is something I have designed before, something you may be able to design today. What we are all going to do real fast, though, is we're going to create a brand new design. And when you get here, this is your work plane. The blue area is your work plane. If you take two fingers and you hold your fingers down on the trackpad, you can move all over your work plane. Up here, we can change the name of our file. It gives you a generic name. I'm going to change this to my first initial, last name, and then my graduation year. And then I'm also going to put keychain, just so we can keep things organized and keeps things generic for when we are submitting our file. And click enter, and that changes. So on the right side of things, you have all your different shapes that you can choose from. Lots of different shapes that we can choose. You can also go under text here. You can see some different text you can have. You can see symbols, connectors. Then there's extras. Circuit assemblies for some different things you can build. There's shape generators, lots of different generated shapes by the community. can search through that. And then there's a community shape generators and a featured featured shape generators. We're gonna start with today. I want everyone to drag a box out onto their plane. Okay, so drag a box right there, and it's a red box. First thing I notice is I can change the color of it if I want to. I'm gonna change it to green. I can also change the radius if I wanted to. It makes it more of a circle and it has different edges as I go down. I'm going to keep this at 0 for now. Steps, that just changes the sides of the shape. I'm going to keep that right where it was at 10. Length of it, I can stretch it, make it really small. I'm going to leave this at 20 for now. You can also click on that and change the number. Same thing, width and height. I can also make it a hole. We're going to talk about that shortly. So, if I click on here, the white squares, I'm zooming in with 2 fingers. The white squares, I can just stretch it, like so. These numbers right here represent millimeters, so 65 millimeters in length. And this is going along my x-axis. And right here, 45 millimeters in width. And this is going along my y-axis from this corner over to this corner. I can change these numbers just by clicking on it, and I can just change this to 30. And I can change this maybe down to 50. Or if I wanted to make a giant box, 50 by 50, like so. And let's say I wanted to change the height of it too. There's another square here in the center. Click on that, and I change this to 50. And I have a giant perfect square, 50 by 50 millimeter square. Now I can also choose this little arrow up top. This raises it up and down, and you can see the 8 in the lower right there. That's meaning that it's 8 millimeters off of the surface. So you can see it's hovering in the air there. Same idea, you can bring it down below the surface. But you don't want to have anything below the surface, because below the surface is going to cause some problems when we take it to print on our machines. So I'm going to bring this back up to 0 and slowly -1, 0 right there. One thing you want to make sure is everything stays on that work plane. Alright, now I have a giant box, and you're probably wondering what we're going to do with this giant box. So what I want everyone to do is either, let's actually go down and we're going to grab this heart, like so. So, and taking this heart here, I'm going to stretch it up to, okay? So I'm clicking on that center thing. I'm going to stretch this all the way up to 60 millimeters, and stretches up. Now, I'm going to drag it towards the center of my box here, anywhere in the center. And I'm going to change this from a solid to a hole, like so. Before we do one thing, we're going to select both objects, so going across here. Select both objects. And up here is a tool called the Align tool. I'll align things up. So I'm going to click on the center one right here, this center one right here, and all of a sudden, that heart is perfectly in line in the center of my box. Now I can select these things again, just dragging across it, or you can also click Command A. And up here, there's a tool called the Group tool. And I group it, and it creates a hole in my box, which can be really cool. You can also see, mention this again, this is the size of my box, x-axis, y-axis, and then up here would be my z-axis. You're going to have specific size constraints for your keychain here in a moment. Okay, let's look at the keychain now. So, I'm going to go over here. So here's one of my keychains that I've made before. You notice it has my name on here. Everyone's going to create a keychain with their first name. And again, your title of your file is going to be your first initial, last name, graduation year, and then keychain. just to keep things organized. So how do they do this, you're wondering? Two ways you can do this. So under basic shapes here, you can go to text. You can choose the text, okay? So I can choose this and drag it out here. And obviously, all the letters are separated, so if they're separated, they're not going to print together. But I can just type one letter in here, like an M. And I can change the text, change the font if I wanted to. I'm going to change this to sans, like so. And height can stay like that for now. Bevel, I can make it a little bit fatter. I'm going to change the bevel to about 0.75. How about that? That looks good to me. Leave the segments like that. So now I have this one letter. I can copy this. Command C to copy. Command V to paste. And I'm going to change this to R. Like so. And now, this is a new thing. I'm going to press the letter F on my keyboard. F allows me to focus into the object. Makes it really easy to see what I'm working on. And I'm going to change the height of this here. I'm going to change it down to 7. And I'm going to move this down to 9. So I'm differentiating the sizes of everything. Now eventually I could change this to Mr. Gannon and going all the way across. I'm going to delete that for now. I'm going to take a look at my keychain over here. Again, F for focusing. I'm going to focus it in on what I have here. So this is my keychain that I've created, and I will print this again. You can see the R is raised. I'm going to raise this A again too. Raise this up a little bit, like 5. And I'll raise this up a little bit to 6. So I'm just differentiating everything and making everything a little bit different in height. With the star over here, what I did with everything on that star is to make that happen. I just took the star and I had 2 stars on top of one another, and I centered it, and one was a hole, and I cut it out. And you can see here, if I ungroup it again, you can see the star hanging out here in the center. And I just stretch that star up. And group. I'm going to change this to multicolor, like so. Get rid of the transparent. And there we are. So, you can also go over here under symbols. Let's go actually under connectors and see what's there. Under connectors, I believe there is some rings that you can find. Oh, not there. Basic shapes. Oh, you can drag one of these rings on here to make your keychain. The biggest thing is you want to make sure your keychain is all connected. If things aren't connected again, they are not going to print properly. Last thing I want to mention here. So, sizes of our keychain. You can see I've selected my entire keychain here. And I'm going to go to the lower right hand corner. Click on it. I can see the sizes. So my x-axis says 48 millimeters. My y-axis says 29. Then I can click on here on the center, and my z-axis says 7. So my z-axis, being my height there, says 7. Now, before we print these, your keychains will need to be a minimum of, or maximum of 50 millimeters on your x-axis, and then 30 millimeters on your y-axis, and then a maximum height of 8 millimeters on your z-axis. So again, 50 on the x, 30 on the y, and then 8 on the z. This is just to keep our keychains to a normal size and so that we can print them in a reasonable fashion. Now the last thing we're going to do today is we are going to go over to export. And you're going to choose everything in the design. You're going to go over here to download if you have that option there. And you're going to select .stl. This is a stereolithography file. It's an old 3D printing file. and click on download. And you can save it to your desktop. And this file here will now get uploaded to this assignment as a .stl. Please email with questions. I hope you guys all enjoyed today. Have a good weekend.